Hello and welcome back to Blaster Toad's Game Academy, Class 101. Today we start looking at multiplayer, okay? We're going to be doing this very simply, okay? Very simply. We're going to use as much built-in stuff as we can. We're going to be working with our character pawn, and we're going to let the game engine handle spawning for us with the player start, which has existed in our default level this whole time. Okay, and to make quality of life a little easier, on our street lamp here, we're gonna go over and select the light beam, and we're gonna set its collision to no collision. We're gonna compile and save. That way we can walk through it. Our level isn't super huge, so we don't want to remove that area of use. Okay, so very simply to start, now that we have new editor window selected here, we can set number of players down here to 2. And it's going to open up now. Look at that, 2 things for us. If I Alt-Tab and select the other one, and let's say move that right there. Okay, so there's one player right there, and he's shooting a line forward. And here's my character, and look, hey, I'm looking around, I'm doing things, it can see my line that I'm putting out there, and multiplayer is kind of working. Awesome. And if I go to open this door, oh, wait, what's that? It only opens on my end. Okay, well, what about the light? So if I come over here, and I point up at the light, and I turn it off, and then we go over to our other character. Oh, the light's still on. What is going on? What is happening? Well, what is happening is that all of these are set up to work on the current computer that is viewing it. Okay, none of them are set up for multiplayer. So let's set up some multiplayer interaction with what we've already done. So we're just going to be modifying what we've already worked with. So if we go to, firstly, our character, character, and over to this here setup, we want to do a thing. So what thing we want to do is take our input stuff and move it down just a tad. We're going to make a new custom event. We're going to do a custom event, and we're going to call this interact trigger. Okay, and then off here, instead of going through all this, we're going to pull off here when we press the interact button, and we are going to call interact trigger. And we're going to right click and straighten, and right click and break link, and pull that right there. So then we want to comment this, and we want to trigger interaction. And then on this, we want to hit C and interact on server. Move this over here. And with that interact trigger action we made, well, if we do it like this, it's going to run exactly how we've had it. It's just running in a different spot. Well, now we want to select that, and over here, we want to tell it to run on the server. I'm going to make sure that's reliable. Okay, this is a fairly important thing. And then we're going to move this down a bit. We're going to make that box bigger and blah, 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 all that stuff. And now this is happening on the server. So this is going to make a new weird thing happen if we leave it like this. So this is our server, and open and closing. Oh look, it still opens on that end. However, here is our client, so our connected game, and now if we go interact, oh, what's going on? It's happening on the server, but not on the client. Go figure. So now that this is happening on the server, I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. Now we can make some things work differently. So if we go over to our door, okay, and double clicking on that does nothing. Okay, so we're going to go with props and open class door. So on our event interact, blah, 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 all that good stuff. So what we want to do is class defaults. That's where I'm looking for. And over here we have replicates. Okay, this tells it whether or not to even matter to multiplayer. So we want to make sure that this actor replicates. And then let's see if this is going to be a simple setup for us. We're going to go to cube, which is our door piece. And we want to set it to also replicate. So we want component replicates. We're going to compile and save. And now let's see what happens. So now we're both looking at the door and one person opens it. Still, nothing happens. And the reason this is because this already exists on the level. Every player is loading their own version of this. Well, that's not very good. So, what we are going to do is, in zones, we are going to make a new thing. So we're going to do a new blueprint class. We are going to make an actor. And we are going to make a zone underscore spawn. We're going to rename that item spawn. Okay. And in this item spawn, we want to do event graph. And on begin play, we're going to see if this is a server. So we are going to do a has authority. And the server has authority. So server has authority, remote clients, they do not have authority. So on the server, we want to spawn actor from class right there. And we are going to get transform. We're going to get actor transform. And we're going to plug that in here. And class, we're going to right click and promote to variable. And we're going to call this item to spawn. Okay. There we go. And this is going to spawn an actor in this position. And then the last thing we want to do is open up the eyeball right there. So what this is doing is, since this is loaded with a level, every machine is loading it. Okay, so every person has a copy of that. It is not one thing that shows up for everybody. Everybody has their own copy. So when we go and we open the door over here, it doesn't even matter if it's replicated because this door does not exist for everybody. It only exists on your computer for your loaded level. We're going to delete our door from the level. We're going to bring out our spawn item. Okay. And our spawn item, we want to have it spawn a door. So we're going to move it somewhere in here. And then item to spawn, we can see it now shows up in the detail panel. Okay, nice thing here. And that's because we hit the little eyeball on it. So that is now a public variable. It is able to see right there. And we want to do a door. So class door. So now if we play, hey look, there's still a door there. But now it's been spawned by the server. And it exists on everybody's machine because the door replicates. So it is on the server and everybody else can see it. So now if I go to open it, well, it's still opening on the server. Why is it not opening on the client? That should have fixed all our problems. Ah, I think I know why. We go to props, and we go to door, and we go to hinge instead of cube, and tell the hinge to replicate. The cube does not need to replicate. And now, if we go, and we open a door, I was just replicating the wrong thing. We still need it to spawn on the server. Like if I get rid of that spawn point and we just put a door out here, like we initially had, if I go and open the door, oh, now it works for everybody as well. Okay. So if it's the same object in a level, it works. So go figure. We did not have to spawn it. Some things, for whatever reason, you do need to spawn on the server. But in this case, the door, we do not need it to spawn on the server. We just had to replicate the hinge. And because we are interacting with it on the server, everybody else connected gets that replicated. So there we go. The door's multiplayer, and setting up the spawn item zone was not needed for this particular item. Now I feel smart. Woo! We all learn something every day, don't we? Okay. This here, the spikes, we already had set up to work in multiplayer. So if we open up zone damage, it is checking if it is on the server first, and then if it's on the server, it damages the controller. So something to remember with multiplayer. So if we go to our core, the game instance, everybody has one of these. This is loaded when you start the game and it's always running. The game mode only is on the server. And the player controller is only on the client and the server. Okay? So it'll be, if I'm playing the game, it'll be, I'll have a copy of my controller, and the server will have a copy of the controller, but another person playing the game, they do not have a copy of my controller. They have a copy of their controller, and the server also has a copy of their controller. The server is the only one with a bunch of controllers, and that's why we want the damage to happen on the server. It also prevents people from cheating and changing their variables on their end. So now if we go over to our light and we change it, and we go to our second player and we go look at a light, nothing's changed on our end, but if we click it, it will change on the server's end, because we're still interacting on the server, which is the left-hand window there. So let's go modify our light. So let's see if it's as easy as our door. We're going to go to our props. We are going to go to our class light. And our class light, we're going to set class defaults. It's going to replicate. All the lights in the world are going to replicate. Okay. Now, on our lamp, we are going to tell the light itself, the actual light that's producing the color, to replicate. So when we change it, hopefully that change goes across everything, as we're going to replicate that component. And let's see if it is that easy. If we come over here as our server, oh, if we don't fall off the edge and walk over here as our server, sorry, my look is inverted, as yours may well be as well. And then we're going to go over to our client, which didn't spawn in correctly this time. There we go, our client spawned in correctly this time. Oh, spawned in correctly, not incorrectly spawned. Okay, so now our client, if we come over here and we hit our light, well, that is not changing. That still just changes on the server. what is going on with that. We have it saved. It should, in its class defaults, replicate. It is, because all types of light are supposed to replicate. So why is this not happening? Well, who knows? But there should be an easy way to get around that. So our interact event, which is actually changing light color, so actually we're going to go over to light, and we're going to tell it to not replicate anymore. Not the core of it, but just that component, the light. Okay? So on interact now, because it's a custom event, so we compile, save. Sure, because we have it bound, we can't do that. So we're going to make a new custom event. And we're going to call this interact trigger. I know we're going to have a lot of things called interact trigger, but because we're not calling them directly, that's okay. We're going to do that, and then we're going to go interact trigger. Okay, we're going to break the link there and straighten that up. Okay, so interact trigger. So on our character, on a custom event, we had it happen on the server so that it's only interacting on the server. Well, on this, we want, instead of only interacting on the server, we want it to multicast. So when this happens on the server, which all our interaction is happening on the server, well, then it's going to say, hey, do this on everybody that's connected. Okay, and we want that reliable, just to make sure it happens. Do lights have to be reliable? Do you need to know when they're on and off? If it's a big part of your game, maybe. In this case, it is a big part of our game, as there's not much else gameplay happening. If it's not a big part, then it doesn't really have to be replicated, or it doesn't have to be reliable. So let's hit play now. So now if we go over to our light, got player 1 over here, got player 2, the client over here, and now it should happen on everybody's computer when we interact. Let's see. Look at that. So now that it is multicast, it is being sent. So that works exactly how we want it to. And we could update our street lamp to do the same. Again, we are just triggering a new event, and that new event is cast out and tells everybody connected to do that bit of code. Okay, and that works as long as you are triggering it from the server. Okay. Now, let's do something new. So, we are going to go and we're going to get our player character. Okay, cool. Get our player character. We are going to, on our player character, on tick, we are going to show health. We're going to do a new custom event, show health. And we're going to get controller. And the target is a pawn. The pawn is ourselves, so we're going to get the controller attached to us. We are going to, from that, cast to player controller, and this is just to prove a point, okay? This should not work. We're going to get health, and then we're going to, is it a text render? Add text render component, relative transform is going to be get transform. We don't want to add a component there. We want to update a component. So we're going to add a component here. We're going to do a text render component. And then our text render component we're going to pull off. We are going to set text. And the value is going to be our health. And viewport, text render, we're going to pull that out in front of the player. And that should be viewable from both sides, right? Yes, it'll be viewable from both sides. We want it like up where we can see it ourselves. So, yay! Text and text. Cool. So now we want to go back to our event graph, and on tick we want to show health. This is not how we would actually want to do it, because this is, it's not super bad because of how small this is, but this is updating your health every tick, every second of the game, okay, instead of only when needed. So, hey look, our health is 100. Great. And if I go step on this here, oh no, my health is now 75, and it's backwards for me because, great, it's backwards. But if we go over and we look at it, wait, why is it just saying text there? It should show health. Well, this is, again, because there is no controller. I cannot see the controller for my server. On the client, the only controller that exists is my own. Okay, so it is not updating a controller because there is no controller. Whereas not getting the controller because there is none. So, how do we fix that? So since the controller only exists on the player, or on the player side and on the server side, but it does not exist for everybody else, we need something else. So we're going to do a player state. We want to go here, player state. Perfect. And we are going to call that PS, stupid autosave, rename, PS for player state underscore project 101. Okay, so the controller exists on the controlling player's end and on the server's end. So the server has a copy of all of them, but not everybody connected has a copy of all of them. The player state, however, exists everywhere. So what we want to do is health, we are going to, on our player controller, on health, we are going to set that to a notify, a rep notify. So when it is updated, everybody is notified. Then, when that is notified, so we've now got this new function on rep health, so when it is updated, we are going to has authority, so make sure we're doing this on the server. We are going to get player state from the controller. Okay, so this is going to be the player state attached to this controller. And then we are going to, in our player state, make a new variable, health. We are going to set health to replicate. We are going to set health to a float, compile and save. So we're going to now off here set health. I need to compile and save my player controller as well. Set health. First, we should cast a player controller for player state 101. Or PS underscore project 101. Sorry, my brain is melting as I have not eaten yet. Then we want to set health. And then we're going to pull off our health, get health, and set it to health. Perfect. So whenever health is updated on the player controller, on the server's end, it is going to get its connected player state and update health. On the player state, we have health, and we have set it to be replicated. So when it gets updated, everybody gets it updated. Okay, so now if we go to our control, or onto our pawn, now instead of getting controller, we can get player state. And then we can cast to player state. And we can get health. And plug all those in. So now that the player state exists everywhere, they should all be updated. So we should no longer see text on the other player when we're on a client side. And we should see it update our health, whether we're on server or on client, when we step on the spikes. So let's give that a go. Before it'll work though, we need to tell the game to use our player state. So we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, Maps and Modes, and we already have our pawn class set up here. We need our player state class set up, and we're going to go PS101. So the exact same thing that we're doing here for the player controller and the player state, it also is the same sort of idea for the game mode. So the game mode only exists on the server, and that's why there is also in here game state. So where the game mode will control how characters are spawned and how score should be kept and things like that that are core to the game that players should not be able to directly influence. Like how scores to be kept should not be influenced. You can update the score, but how it is to be kept, how it does its calculations, should happen on the game mode. Then, once those calculations are done, we would put that score on a game state so that everybody could take a look at the score, because the state exists for everybody. Okay, so the game mode is like the referee actually going up and changing the numbers, and then the scoreboard up there that the referee is changing, well, that is the game state. And same thing with the controller, only exists on the server, and the player state exists everywhere. So now if we play, we should say, oh, look, my health is, okay, 0 for some reason, and so is that health. It shouldn't, oh, because it's not been updated yet. Okay, so we want to player state, on begin play, get controller, get controller, get player controller, get player index. Does that work for us? No. Oh yes, get my player index. No, that gets from the controller. Okay, so on our player controller then, we want to on begin play, so event graph on begin play, we want to do an on rep underscore. Can I not call that? It is not callable. Okay. So we will set health to 100. So when we start the game, we are setting the player controller's health to 100. which will notify everything, which will then set it on the player state. And that's how we're going to get around that. So now, hey, health is 100 instead of 0. And health is 100 over there as well. Look at that. And on this end, we see our health is 100. And the other guy's health is 100. And if I go and step on spikes... Come on, spikes. You're supposed to damage me. Okay. Why are the spikes not doing damage now? Now the frickin' spikes are broken. So, on authority, character, get the controller, set the health, and print the string. Should be working. Okay. So, it's supposedly working, but it's not updating that number for us. Because... are we not ticking? So if we go to our controller, so player controller, health is notifying. On notifying, it is setting to our player state, which is supposed to set health. And our player state, compile save, has health, which is to be replicated. Okay. And on our pawn, we are getting our player state and getting health, and we're doing that every tick. So for some reason, our player state is not currently getting updated. So what we want to do then is change the way things work. So our player state is going to hold our health now. We're going to go on event begin play. We are going to get player state from our controller, player controller. We're going to cast to PS101. Actually, did I set that in my project settings? Did I set my player state correctly? Because that would make sense if I didn't. No, I set player state correctly. Okay. We're going to cast a player state. We are going to set health to 100. Okay. And then on our zone, instead of getting controller, we are going to get player state, cast to player state 101, or PS underscore project 101, then get health, put that into our negative, then we are going to set health. So everything we had going to our controller, we're just going to put on our player state. And this is why... So that all goes that way now? Yes. This is why multiplayer is a massive pain in the ass. It's trying to figure out what it should talk to, where things should be stored, and writing everything to work on multiplayer versus working locally. Because just because it works locally doesn't mean it's going to work in multiplayer. And trying to modify things later to work in multiplayer gets really fun to deal with, as you can see. So if you're wanting to do multiplayer, make sure you write everything for multiplayer first. And that is what we'll do in our final project. So the final project is going to be we build a game from scratch, just learning what we've worked with, or using what we worked with and what we've learned. We're going to build a great game from scratch, and we're going to build it to work with multiplayer first instead of building it like we have to work with single player, and then going to multiplayer. Now if we play, we should have, okay, 100, and then this should directly affect our... This happens on the server, yes, because we have the switch has authority. Make sure that it's a character player hitting it, gets a player state, reduces health on the player state, and every tick on our player, so tick, show health, gets the player state, gets health from the player state. This should only happen on, so has authority. No, we want that to happen on both server and on the client, because in this case our server is also a player, so we want them to see everything. Yes. Sorry, I just have to talk myself through this. So we're at 100. If we go step on spikes as the server, we're at 75. Woo! And now if we look over here, hey look, even on our client it's updated that that guy has 75. And if we go walk over it, boom! Oh no, we're at 75, and we can see on everybody we're at 75. And that is how player states work versus player controllers, and what exists on the server and what doesn't. And yeah, multiplayer. Woo! Has it driven you crazy yet? Okay. Yes. Okay, let's do one more thing. And this should be quick. And we're going to write it from scratch to work on multiplayer. So we are going to go to project settings. Input. New action event. Shoot. And on shoot, we are going to use the mouse, and we're going to do a left mouse click because we're just clicking on it. Okay. And then we're just going to put that on our character. On our character, if we hit shoot, we are going to do a custom event. We're going to call this trigger shoot. It is going to happen on the server. Okay. When we press shoot, we are going to trigger shoot. Happens on the server. On the server, we are going to do a line trace. So we are going to, on here, we are going to actually first create a new component, add a cube. We are going to make that cube significantly smaller and move it out something like that. Okay, so that is our gun. Woo! Super high res gun! Yay! Okay, and on trigger shoot, which executes on server, we're gonna grab our gun cube. Actually, we should just name that gun. Okay, so we're going to grab our gun. We're going to get location. Get world location. Get forward vector. Multiply the forward vector by a float. We're going to do 10 meters, so 1,000. We are then going to add these two things together. So add a vector and a vector. This should look familiar from our interaction thing. We are going to do a line trace by channel. We're going to plug that into the end, that into the start. We're going to do it by visibility. We are going to do this for duration, not one frame, on the debug line. Then we are going to do a branch to see if we hit anything or not. So true or false, did we hit something? We're going to pull off hit. We are going to break the hit. we are going to get the hit actor. Okay, not components. We want to get the hit actor. We are going to cast to character player because we only care if it's a player at this time. If we hit a character player, we are going to do damage. So we're gonna type in damage because they have pre-built in damage. So apply damage. And we're gonna apply damage of 20. Yeah, 20, sure. Damaged actor will be our hit actor. Actually, we don't need to cast now. We're just gonna apply damage to whatever's hit. That's what we're gonna do. Right, like that. Okay, cool. Apply, save. And then, so this is, I'm gonna hit C, shoot, gun, and do damage. Cool. And then over here, we are going to do an event damage any. So event any damage. So if we receive damage, and this only happens on the server. See that little thing with the lightning bolt? Server only. So if we receive damage, we are going to get player state cast to PS underscore project 101 get health minus a float, put our damage in the minus, set health, there we go. So that updates that on the server. Okay, and then another thing we want to do is, I think, draw debug line, yes, duration 2 seconds, thickness 10 centimeters, and we want to do a custom event, and we're going to call this gun FX, and this is going to be a multicast, and we're going to plug that in there, and then we're going to do line start, line end, and when we fire, and do we want to hit something? Yeah, if we fire and we hit something, we're going to draw, yeah, we're going to draw the lines. We're going to do gun FX, and we're going to get our start point. We're going to get our end point, same as for our line trace. And this is going to draw a line in the air for like a laser line. Woo. Because we are not doing the debug line here. Debug line we want off. So none. Compile and save. So this should do damage. When we shoot somebody, apply the damage and draw a line from our gun. Okay. Okay, so we are the server. We want to fire at this guy. Kaplooey! Ah, he's down to 80. Kaplooey! He's down to 60. Now, as our other guy over here, we're going to come over here. We're going to be like, ah, he's shooting at me. Kaplooey! Oh, I didn't hit him. Come on. Kaplooey, he's down to 80. Oh no! Kaplooey, Kaplooey, Kaplooey. Shoot him until he's negative numbers. Ah, you're negative 140, dude. And there we go. That is multiplayer. We've looked at multicast, we've looked at run on server. We can also have something update just on the client, so run on owning client if we needed to from the server. And yeah, that's multiplayer. Very basic and very quick and frantic overview into it, but that's how we get it done. And yeah. Sorry, my brain is fried at this point of doing the video. So, I'm gonna go put my dinner in the oven and, call that a night for tutorial videos. And whenever I get back to do the last bit in our series, we'll be going over the final project. And the final project is taking everything we worked with through this whole series and seeing how quickly we can make a viable game. We're not going to be doing any graphics. We're just going to be doing how quickly we can slap something together with just what we know here. Okay? So we know how to spawn things because we did the spawn item. Even though we ended up not needing it, we know how to spawn things. We know how to do interaction with things. We know how to possess a vehicle. We know how to do a little bit of multiplayer. So let's see what we can come up with when we get back and do a final project. I think I want to do something in space, because we have this spaceship here with physics movement that we really didn't do anything with. So, yeah, let's have some fun with a spaceship and multiplayer and interactions and shooting and everything we've learned here. Yeah, that's what we'll do. But when I get back, for now, I am having dinner. Again, thank you for watching. If you've learned lots of stuff and you've liked it, please let me know. If you've disliked it, then please really, really, really let me know, because then I can make things better in the future. Yeah, I guess this is a point where, since you've watched the whole series by now, or at least I expect you to have, if you've made it this far and you haven't watched the other videos, you're a little bit insane, because this all builds off the rest. But if you've followed me this whole journey through the Project 101, and we're coming up on doing the final project, please leave me a like, a dislike, let me know what you've thought of the series. Any feedback is great. If there's something in particular you want to see in the future, again, please let me know. The more I know what you guys want, the more I can come out with hopefully good content and appropriate content for what you all are wanting to see. Of course, always, if you want to know when new stuff's coming out, you can hit the subscribe and hit the little notification so you know when the final project comes out. Woo! Or any future tutorials and that stuff. Yeah, I'm getting really rambly. I need food. Goodbye, good night, and we'll see you for the final project.